Good afternoon all, my name is Martin Chandler, I'm the Digital Engagement Manager here at Pathway Group, and this is my colleague Michelle Hogg, who is the Kickstart Employer Manager. We're here today to talk about the Kickstart Scheme, the initiative that is providing funding to employers to create job placements for 16 to 24 year olds. So during today's webinar, we will be talking about how the scheme actually works, the criteria that is required for each of the job placements, the funding that is available, how to apply for the Kickstart scheme, the role of a Kickstart gateway, the application process, our offer as a gateway to employers, points to consider, and we'll also be open for a Q&A session. We have scheduled 1 hour for this webinar. We have found that as sort of time has gone by, our understanding of the scheme has improved, and obviously it means we're able to provide a more effective service. We do find we do expect this to take around about 30 minutes to complete. We will, however, have time for a Q&A. If there are any questions that are asked during the presentation, we'll do our best to answer those. So to get things started, how does the scheme work? So the Kickstart scheme provides funding to create new job placements for 16 to 24 year olds on universal credit, and potentially being at long-term risk of unemployment. Employers of all sizes can apply for the funding, which covers 100% of the national minimum wage. This is for 25 hours per week for the total of 6 months. The associated employer national insurance contributions, and also the minimum automatic enrolment contributions. Employers can spread the start date of job placements from now up until December 2021. So the scheme works by providing an opportunity of putting in an application. The application must be for a minimum of 30 job placements. If a single employer cannot provide this many job placements, they can find a Kickstart gateway, such as local authority, a charity, trade body, or partner organisations, or ourselves, such as Pathway, where we can provide the assistance that's required. Further funding is available to provide support for young people on the scheme to help them secure work in the future. So what is the criteria for each of these job placements? So the job placements must be created for the Kickstart scheme. They must be considered as new jobs. The placements must not be replacing existing or planned vacancies, cause existing employees, apprentices or contractors to lose or reduce their working hours. These job placements must be for a minimum of 25 hours per week for 6 months, paying at least the national minimum wage or the national living wage for the employee's age group. They must only require basic training in order for them to commence the placement. For each job placement, you must help the young person become more employable. This includes looking for long-term work, careers advice, setting goals, support with curriculum vitae or CV, interview preparation, and then also developing their skills in the workplace.
Okay, Kickstart scheme funding. So as Martin has already mentioned, the funding will cover for each job placement. So not each employer, for each job placement that you create. They will fund 100% of the national minimum wage, depending on the age of the participant, for 25 hours per week for a total of 6 months. They will also fund any associated national insurance contribution and any pension contribution also. Employers can pay a higher wage, so they can pay the living wage. They can also pay above the 25 hours per week, but that will not be funded, and that's where the employer themselves will have to pay that difference. Okay. On top of the 6 months wages paid for 25 hours per week, they are given a £1,500 funding setup costs per job placement. So this is to help out with setup costs. It's also there to develop employability skills and for the training, recruitment and wraparound support. So what we do know so far is out of that £1,500, an element must go towards training, and it must include looking for long-term work, including careers advice and goal setting, CV creation, interview preparation, basic work skills, and there will be an action plan curated for each individual to plan out what they are going to do over the next 6 months. Okay. Had the Kickstart Scheme funding continued, the DWP will use the information from HMRC to check that the young person is still employed. So the £1,500 setup costs, again, will all be triggered through your HMRC. So as soon as the young person starts with you on the placement, then you must ensure that they are entered onto your payroll system. As the PayAway system will trigger that initial payment for the £1,500, and they will also do a monthly check or weekly check, depending on when you pay, as to see that that young person is still with you, and then they will pay in monthly arrears. The £1,500 setup cost will be paid when the young person starts the job placement, as I've just mentioned. You can negotiate with how the £1,500 is split. You must, as I said, cover the employability training as well as the recruitment and wraparound support. Now, there is nothing saying that you can't offset this yourself. So if you can bring in employability support, you can find somebody else to sort out the job placement side of it. But again, that will be negotiated and it will come out of that £1,500.
Okay, so applying for the Kickstart scheme. If you're an employer looking to create 30 or more job placements between now and December 2021, you can apply directly using the Gov.uk portal. However, if you're an organisation is creating fewer than 30 job placements, you can't apply directly. In both scenarios, you do have the option to partner with Pathway Group as your approved Kickstart gateway, where we will administer the scheme on your behalf.
Okay.
Getting the young people into job placements.
Okay. Okay, the Kickstart Scheme job placements are only available for those who are on universal credit, who are aged between 16 to 24, and they must be referred to each employer via the DWP. Okay, if your application is successful, your Kickstart Gateway provider will give the job descriptions that you create to the DWP and to all the work coaches at each job centres. The work coaches will match suitable candidates to the job placements. Again, then interviews will have to be arranged and you will be able to interview and you pick the specific person that you want for that job role. Funding will only be given if a young person is hired using the Kickstart Scheme process. After a job placement ends, you can get another Kickstart Scheme young person to start another job placement. So if I just go back into that first line, the funding will only be given if a young person is hired through the Kickstart Scheme process. We are getting quite a few questions about that. People are already conducting interviews. They've already got people they wish to take on. I cannot reiterate enough. They have to go back to their work coaches, and it can only be done once their vacancies have been approved, and the job coach will have to refer them for that job.
Okay, so the Kickstart Gateway. We are an approved partner that can act as a Kickstart Gateway, and we're just going to take you through some information in terms of what our responsibilities are. So as an approved Kickstart Gateway, we will administer the scheme on your behalf. Initially, we will gather information about your job placements that are available. We will use this information to apply for approval through the DWP. And moving forward, we will make the necessary payments in terms of the wages and the setup costs. In addition, we can also provide services for utilising our expertise in terms of onboarding and training the young people and providing wraparound and employability support. The application process for ourselves involves initially making your application via our website, so that is pathwaygroup.co.uk/kickstart. Once we receive your information, we will conduct a desktop due diligence review of the application. We will then apply on your behalf for approval of Kickstart funding. The final decision is made by DWP, initially quoting 6 to 8 weeks for approval. I understand this is now around about the 4-week mark, however, timeframes can differ. Your placements will then be advertised with the likes of Job Centre Plus. Work coaches will then refer suitable applicants, and if required, we can coordinate on the recruitment and selection, which we will revisit again shortly. Obviously, the employer will make the final decision on the successful placement. And again, for those that haven't already, you can register on our website. It is free of charge. There is no obligations if it is something where you later change your mind or work with another organisation. But the website is pathwaygroup.co.uk/kickstart, and then register or apply for Kickstart funding.
Our offer of services as your Kickstart gateway provider. Okay, for the past 20 years, Pathway Group have been at the forefront of supporting individuals in upskilling and reskilling, enhancing knowledge, developing skills, and changing behaviours to transform communities. Pathway Group do this by changing lives through skills and work. We are an ESFA contract holder of apprenticeships, traineeships, adult education budget, advanced learner loans, and in addition to being an Ofsted rated good provider. Okay, so where we go back to the £1,500 setups, recruitment and employability training, we've kind of put in this table format for you for now. It is negotiable, so we have, I think at this stage, these are still open to negotiation and will be discussed upon a placement approval. However, we want you to start thinking about the options now. So we're kind of splitting it into two options, two levels. So recruitment and selection. We are saying £1,000 per placement to cover recruitment services, incorporating, where applicable, any DBS checks, any advertisements of placements, arranging interviews, conducting interviews, etc. We've also got a £500 per placement to cover employability training, wraparound support, accredited sector-specific training courses, and progressions for the young person when they finish placement and then moving forward into full-time employment. So as it currently stands, we have got 4 different options. As you will see, you have the option where Pathway Group could take over from start to finish the whole process, meaning that we would keep the £1,500. Option 4 is where you take over every element of that, from the recruitment right the way through to creating the action plans and the progress reviews for the employability training. And then options 2 and 3 is where we are encouraging you as a business to take over the recruitment element of it. So the £1,000 you would keep to cover the recruitment, the DBS checks and the setup costs. And the £500 we would then take to cover the wraparound support, employability training and skills. Option 3 would be the exact opposite of that. We would do the recruitment and you would take over the employability training. So there is 4 different options for you there as an employer as to how much level of support you would want Pathway to get involved in, or how much responsibility you would rather take yourself. I think the next slide, we've just got a few examples of some of the courses that would also fall into that employability training if we were to take over that £500 element of that £1,500 for you. So we have got multiple training courses. all different settings. So as you can see from here, we've got anything from business administration to caring, to care planning, to care certificates, to customer skills or digital skills. I think if we click on the next one, Martin, we have got end of life, equality, diversity, fire safety, food hygiene, first aid. All these are transferable skills, and they will have accredited certificates they can take with them then to any employer moving forward. So that is just a general list. There is more to that list, and as I said, we could find ones that are suitable for your industry.
Okay, we'll just move on to nearing the end now, just in terms of points to consider. So points to consider from your point of view, the placements needed are to be in addition to any recruitment that you may currently be undertaking. There needs to be added value for the young person. A motto within the organisation is always put yourself in the other person's shoes and look at it in that way. You will be competing with many employers in this marketplace. How do you plan to stand out? How do you make yourself attractive to these young people to make them want to apply for the opportunities available? And it is also worth noting that a young person may not have had a formal job or those sort of qualifications. They are going to need that settling in period, that sort of pastoral care, helping them to reach their full potential within the work environment. If you wish to take the lead on recruitment, that's great, and we do encourage it as best as possible. Our advice is not to try and do everything yourself. Consider us or other providers for the pastoral care, that wraparound training, give that guidance to the young person in our way of sort of giving back to the community, really. So we'd like to thank you for your time today in going through this information. We understand it's early days with this programme. Things can change, and it has changed over the past few weeks. Where needed, we will keep you informed. That's all the information that we have at this moment in time. We are accepting applications on a daily basis, and we would encourage that as well. If you do wish to proceed with ourselves, we would welcome the opportunity to work with you. Please complete the application initially on our website. That will trigger off the process where in a number of weeks' time we will be having those more in-depth conversations, and in the meantime providing additional webinars and communication in terms of progress that has been made.
Yes, thank you very much.
So just in terms of questions and answers, I know we've got sort of the current ones, and I know you did cover it as you sort of went through there, Michelle, but on screen at the moment you can see our contact details. We are happy to have conversations about particular sort of situations, but please do complete your application. At least we can start the process off there. So a couple of the questions that we have had more recently, and as I say, Michelle, I know that you did cover it during the webinar itself, is people saying that they've interviewed over the weekend, or can they take people on and backdate them? Can we just sort of go through and reiterate sort of the stance on that at the moment?
There's no way of us backdating anything to do with the Kickstart. It is a very new initiative, and I know employers are very keen and eager to get this started. However, we do have to wait for approval of the vacancies before we can move on to the next step. If you have got people that you would consider for the placements, then absolutely feel free to talk with them. Explain that once your vacancy has been approved, they can then go and speak with their work coach. They have to come through the work coach. They have to be referred via that mechanism in order to guarantee the funding.
Right. And I know a question that we was having last time was, do they have to give them a job at the end of the scheme?
No is the answer. In an ideal world, they will have worked with you for 6 months. You will have given them all the training and all the support that you would want to keep them, and that they will have done enough for you to want to keep them on board also. But as I say, you do not have to guarantee them a job at the end of it. The fact is they're going to be able to add all of their skills, all of their qualifications, and anything that they've covered throughout the 6 months onto their CV, which will better their chances of getting future employment with another employer.
Great. And I think just the final one then is just what's the next stage for people who have gone through and completed their application? What's our plans for those?
Okay, so for those who haven't already registered their details, as you said, the link is there, pathwaygroup.co.uk/kickstart. As soon as those details are entered, we carry out the desktop due diligence checks. If there is any outstanding details we require, so if company's house number doesn't match company name, then we will obviously get back to you on an individual basis. However, if everything is okay with the initial registration form, we are turning those around within a day and sending them off for approvals. Whilst we wait for the approvals to come through, then you will be invited either to a webinar, or you will have more correspondence sent out to you via email asking you what level of support you are looking for Pathway to get involved with. So then we can start, as you said, building up the job specifications, contracts of employment, grant agreements, action plans, etc. So initial stage, the first stage of the process is just literally to get the vacancies approved. Nobody is committing to anything at this stage. Let's get the vacancies approved, and then we can move on to the next step.
Great. I think that's probably about it then. I will just come out of there and just see if we do have any questions that have come through. Okay, no, I think we can safely wrap up there then, Michelle. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, everybody will have our details, so if they do think of any questions that we haven't covered, then obviously anybody can drop us an email, can't we? And we will get back to them accordingly.
Certainly can, yes. And again, the Pathway website, pathwaygroup.co.uk/kickstart. There's also a dedicated mailbox, which is kickstart@Pathway Group, or come straight through to myself and Michelle, and we'll be there to advise you. Right, so thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you again very soon. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.